So, welcome to episode 3, series 3 of the NCC live stream series. Of course, we're talking about Apple Teacher, and we'll get our introductions over with first. My name is Richard Child. I'm the Education Manager for MCC Digital. We are an Apple authorised education specialist helping schools with Apple devices up and down the country. And with me, as always, is Mr. David Kirtland, an Apple professional learning specialist and expert on all things Apple and iPad. So last week we looked at iPad as an overview and an overview of the program itself. And today we're looking at the first of a set of apps. So we're looking at Pages. Pages, which is Apple's, well, to say it's a word equivalent does it an injustice. I think it's a word processor, but it's also a very good page layout program and very useful, as we're about to find out. So, David, Pages, take it away. Let's see what we've got in store today.
Okay, great. Thank you, Richard. So, in the first session, we had a quick look through the Apple Teacher Learning Center resources. So I'm already logged in here with my Apple ID, and it's taken me to this homepage here. So just to remind ourselves, we're looking now at the Learning Skills for iPad section here on the left-hand side, and this takes us through to the various badges. So we've already been through the settings and the options around getting our understanding and our knowledge of the iPad ready for the first badge. So hopefully we've achieved that now. We're going to move on now and have a look at the second badge, which is the first of the productivity apps. This is the Pages badge. So these are the main areas we're going to have a look at here, and really just finding our way around the app and how we can make quite a good use of this in a classroom. Now, the nice thing about the productivity apps is that once you know one of these, so we're going to look at Pages, the word processor here, but once you've learned that, kind of working with Keynote and working with numbers, work in a very similar way. All the buttons are in the same kind of place. So we're going to start with this one here and hopefully gain our first productivity badge today. So just to get going, we're going to jump into the Pages, find our way around the app and have a look at working with the templates and just do our first little bit of exploring of how we insert text and photos. So let's jump over to the Pages app. Now, like all apps on the iPad, this takes us straight to all our files that I have of documents that I may have already created, but there's our plus button so we can create a new one. So let's create a document. And the first thing you notice about Pages are all these templates. And there really are dozens of these, which are a great way of getting started, whether we're creating ebooks, so we've got that interactive element here, and we'll have a look at those in a few moments, whether we're doing more kind of traditional documents or letters, or we're creating posters, or things that we might be getting the children to create in a classroom, a newspaper, something like that, a newsletter layout, just as a way of showing us that knowledge and that understanding of whatever topic they're doing at the moment. So there's some really good starting points for us to work with in Pages. Now, of course, at the top, we do get our blank documents if we are doing a fairly traditional document or we're starting to think about our own layout here. But just to start with, let's have a quick look at one of these templates. Now, I think I'm going to go for one of these flyers here, this poster layout here. Let's pick one of those. I'll go for the small one. And this opens up our first page in this document within Pages. I can pinch just to reduce that size so we can see more of that traditional page layout here. But we can see with this template, we've already got a nice image in there. We've got a heading and we've got some areas of text. Now, just looking around the app, we can see we've only got one page at the moment, but there it is on our left-hand side. We can see that as we build up our documents to navigate around whatever we're creating. But over on the top right-hand corner, we get these options here. And these are the ones which are fairly standard across the different productivity apps. Now, the two main ones are that little paintbrush and the plus. Now, plus is there because we can add content to our documents, whether that's text, whether it's images, whether it's audio or drawing tools, it all comes under that plus button there. And then the paintbrush is where we can adjust some of those settings. We can change anything about those things there. And those are consistent across Pages, Keynote, and Numbers. So once we're familiar with those, we've got a good start with the other apps. Now, there are 2 or 3 other icons there, and we'll mention those as we get to those. But let's have a quick look at getting started with this document. So I've got this image here, and it is an image. I can move this around and I can move it about on my page. The little yellow lines tell me when it's in the middle, which is really handy. The blue corners, just let me resize this around to fit within my document. It does snap to match other things, so it's easy to get things to line up with each other. But if that's not the image I want, which it probably isn't because it's just a standard one there from a template, I do have that little plus button just in the bottom corner. And tapping there gives me these three options. So straight away, we can choose a photo or a video from my library. Now, it's worth pointing out that traditionally with a word processing app, we are probably thinking about photos because we probably end up printing these documents. But of course, we could be creating live electronic documents. They could be EPUBs, electronic publications. They could be live working documents that we send into the children. So we're no longer restricted to just putting photos within our word process documents. We could put video in there if we wanted. And similarly, we have the option there to take a photo or take a video live straight into Pages, or we can insert a file from one of my cloud storage options that we could be using. So I'm going to go to my photo library and let's find something appropriate. There's my photos. I'm going to go over to my albums and find these photos of the East Coast. Let's find some pictures of the seaside. So in preparation for us kind of getting out there and being able to go out and do things again, let's start planning our trip to the seaside. So I'm going to put a photo in here. I think I'm going to use this one for now. And there we go. It's simply replaced that image straight away for us. I don't have to do anything about sizes or anything. It's already done. It's put the photo in for us. And of course, I can resize it if I want to. Now, double tapping the image takes me to the masking tools straight away, and it gives me this little slider. So maybe I want to zoom in a little bit more on the cliff top here. So let's have a look. I can just use my slider and then just reposition the picture as appropriate, and tapping on the background, it crops it down for me straight away as a really quick and easy way of adjusting those images so they fit within my documents. Now, in the same way, if I look at the text, we've got this name here. So let's get rid of that. So double tap it and it highlights it for me. And I can just put our title in here, Trip to the Seaside. And we've taken with it all the formatting and the fonts and everything else that goes with it, so it fits within that template. And we have that big block of text where we can double tap it and we can start putting our text together in here, and it will replace it for us within that appropriate text box. Okay, and we can put whatever text we want to in there, but it's really quick and simple and easy to start replacing the content there in the template with our own requirements for whatever our document is that we're working with. So that works really quite simply and quite easily. Right, let's go back to Apple Teacher and let's just remind ourselves where we are. So we've had a quick look at the templates and how we might want to use those. And we've started having a look at working with the text and working with photos. We're going to do a little bit more of that before we move on and have a look at some of these things like shapes and drawing tools and so on. So let's go back to Pages. I'm going to go to my documents now and let's create a new one. Let's create a new blank document. So we're starting from a blank page this time. And so my keyboard has appeared just as you would expect. If I'm working with a hardware, a wireless keyboard, obviously that doesn't appear on the screen. It gives me more working space to see the document on the screen, which is really nice. But I've got my keyboard here on the screen. And there's a couple of little tricks with the keyboard which are worth knowing about anyway. So I would expect to be able to type on this keyboard. Now it's a nice size, so I can probably use both hands and type as I would expect. I can actually use my thumbs and just pull it apart. If I've got children who do like typing with their thumbs, kind of your Xboxes and your PlayStations, gamers, they can type with their thumbs, but do try and encourage them to start developing those typing skills because it is large enough to really get your fingers around there. But as I'm typing, I just simply tap on the letters. If I need any accents, I just do a long press on it and it takes me to the accents if I'm maybe teaching something in MFL. But also, I've got all these numbers which are kind of grayed out above the top of the keys. And I've got these different symbols above it as well as these as shortcuts. Now, we can always get to those options on the keyboard by pressing the button down in the bottom left-hand corner, switches the keyboard over. But a really nice, quick and easy feature, instead of pressing the button, if I kind of swipe down, and I'm just pulling the key down slightly towards the bottom edge of the iPad, it takes me to those grayed out options there. And it takes me to all those symbols and all the other things on the keyboard as well, which is a really nice, quick and easy way of using the keyboard there. Now, I'm just going to delete those. it's also worth noting that we do have that microphone down in the bottom corner as well. So that's the built-in dictation feature. And this is there wherever there's text, wherever there's a keyboard. The first time you use this, you will have to tap the option to enable dictation, but it's just a case of turning it on. And once it's there, we just press the button and talk into the iPad. Our plans for the trip to the seaside, full stop. And it really is quite nice and accurate. You do need to verbalize the grammar, the full stops, the new sentences, the new paragraphs. But for a lot of children, that really is quite nice to make them think about those and think about the full sentences. So it does work really, really quite nicely with the keyboard. Let's carry on. So we've got a title in there now. So I could carry on using this in a fairly traditional way and create a normal document, an essay type structure for whatever we're working with, and keep going for pages and pages if I want. But there's all sorts of other things we can start using with that page layout use of pages. So let's make a list of the things that we might do when we go to the seaside. So we could walk on the beach. We could go for fish and chips. We could eat ice cream. And we might even go crabbing. Okay, so we've got the beginnings of our list here, and we can start thinking about formatting some of the content we have on our document. So if I do a long press on that first word and it highlights it in blue, I can pull those options out there and select the whole first line. Now, do remember, I've got one of the speak screen options in the accessibility features. I've got the spoken content option turned on. So I do have that speak button there on my menu. So anything I've typed, if I just want to check and hear it back, maybe helping understand the content of what we've written here, I can listen back to our content, which can be really useful for some children in the classroom. And that's quite a nice feature anyway. It's just there on that menu. But while I've got that highlighted in blue, if I have a look now at the paintbrush options, this shows me all the options I might need to change the look and the style and the layout of my text. And I've got the usual things there where I can adjust the font and so on. But I also get at the beginning of this my paragraph style. And this is kind of like some presets for different sections of my document. So maybe I'm going to use that heading red. Let's have a big red heading for our plan to the seaside. And we can just use this as we're going through our document to just divide up the different sections of text. Now, in the same way, if I select the list here that we've got and press the paintbrush again, instead of using the paragraph style, a bit further down the list, we have the option for bullets and lists. And tapping on here gives me, I could have a numbered list, I could have a lettered list, or I think I'm just going to use large bullets, the big bullets there. And it automatically adds all those bullet points into my list. So it's already starting to come together and look quite nice. Let's add an extra one in there for as we add more to our list. Now, what I could also do actually while it's selected is use some of the shortcuts I have on my keyboard. So looking over here, I can, without going to that paintbrush menu, I can change the text size. So let's make that first one a bit bigger. Or we could change the indentation or the centralized aspect of it. Or we can change the font and change the style of it straight from the keyboard without having to go through any of the menus. So it really is quite nice and quick and easy to adjust some of the layouts and the formats of whatever we're creating in our document. So we've kind of got our way around the app now. We've started really understanding how we can use the pictures and the text. Let's have a quick look back at Apple Teacher. So we've got templates, we've done text, we've had a look at photos. We might come back to that, but let's have a look what else we've got here. We've got shapes. These are a really nice feature of all the Apple productivity apps. So let's move my keyboard out of the way and let's press the plus up at the top so we can add some new content. Now, the plus button is standard across all of the productivity apps, so it works the same in all of these. So we have 4 categories to this, and I've got the end one selected at the moment, which is my media tab. This lets me insert anything like photos, videos, drawing, sound, that type of thing, and some really nice ways of bringing a document to life. The next one there is our shapes tool, which is the one we're going to have a look at in a moment. We can also insert charts, and we've got some nice interactive ones there. They're really good for Keynote, actually. And we've got some tables as well. So let's go back to our shapes. And shapes really are what they say they are. They're just geometric shapes. And we've got dozens and dozens of these. So we start off with the basic ones. But as I scroll through, we can see we've got loads of these, and we can go down the list as well, and there's hundreds and hundreds of these different shapes. And in fact, there's so many of these, we have a search tool at the beginning as well, which is really helpful to find there. It is worth noting, if we're wanting to add a text box in here, that is the very first shape, which is one of those that we tend to miss sometimes, but it is that first shape there, so we can add just a simple text box or some lines. I'm going to use the little magnifying glass. I'm going to search now, and I think we'll put some little icons in here. I think we'll put something to do with the fish and chips in there. Let's find a plate. And there we go. I've just searched on plate, and it's given me a nice little icon there. And I can resize these, and I can move them around the document and place them up at the top or in different places. It all kind of moves into line as we go. And we get those yellow lines just to tell me when things are in the middle of the page and so on. Now, these are self-contained shapes. I can twist them around with 2 fingers onto different angles and do all sorts with these different shapes. We can even break them up into their individual elements. So I've got a knife, a fork, and a spoon, which are all separate there. And then the plate looks like it's actually made out of 2 separate circles. So we could probably split those up and create them all in as individual shapes. But I'm going to leave it as a group for the moment. And while it's selected, I'm going to use that paintbrush. And it takes us to our style tab here. So I could change the color of this. I can make it whatever color I like. I could go to my fill option here, and I've got lots more colors to choose from. I can even go to the full color, and I could go to the color picker as well. I've got an ink drop there if I want to get a very precise color. Or we can add a gradient, or I could even put an image on the background, give it a bit of texture. I'll put whatever picture I want on there. I think I'm going to stick with a gradient, and I can change those colors if I want, but I think let's stay with those blue for now. Now, to make this a bit more unique and a bit more specific for our document, let's add another shape in. And I think let's have a look for a heart this time. So we've got a few hearts depending on what we're doing here, but I think one of these nice kind of icons of a heart is quite good. I'm going to make that a bit smaller, and I think I'm going to put that on our plate there. And we can line things up how we like, but I don't want it black, so let's use our paintbrush, and let's change the color to red. Now, these are separate shapes at the moment. I can move these around individually, but if I tap one and hold it down, and then with another finger tap the other shape, I can select more than one thing at a time. And I could keep tapping other things if we have them. So they're all selected together. But it gives me this option now, and I can now group these. So they're now treated as one individual shape. So we can move that around the page. We can make it bigger and smaller as a group and twist them around onto angles and all sorts of things, depending on what we want to do with this. I think I'm going to put it up there in that top corner. So those shapes actually become really, really flexible. And they look great for designing our own documents. Once we get onto the Keynote badge, we can start animating these and doing all sorts of exciting things with these shapes. But here, we're just using it to help design our document. Let's go back to our photos. Let's add a quick photo in here. So back to our plus button and back onto our media tab. Let's go to our photos, and let's find another one of these pictures we can put into our document. I think we'll use this one. This is a picture of a pier. So nice big picture. Let's shrink it down, and let's put that on a slight angle. We'll put that one over here. Now, with that paintbrush, I do get some options for editing the image. We've seen under the image tab, we saw that mask tool when we're using the templates, but I've got a few others there which are really nice. I do have that arrange button, so I can move things backwards and forwards if I've got things on top of each other. But under style, I can start adding things like borders. And there's some pre-made ones for us. This one's a nice one. But I can specify my own if I want with different shadows. I'll still a heavy shadow on there. I can make things, I can change the opacity of things as well. So there's some nice options there just to give it that kind of unique feel to it for our document. So that's looking quite nice already. So we get in a feel. This is the kind of thing we can use with our page layout. Let's go back to the Apple Teacher. So we've seen images, we've seen text, we've looked at the shapes. We've got some more details here about adding this nice content in here, things like using the drawing tools or the audio tab there. Let's have a look at those. And it does mention there how we can use books. That's when we can create this interactive content. So it is live and it's not just a static document that we might print. So we've got these items here on our page. I do have under that plus an option there for drawing tools. So we can just tap that and use our finger to then draw on the screen. If you have an Apple Pencil we can literally just tap on the screen and it brings up these smart annotation tools. So I'm going to use the annotation there. If I do a longer press on it, I can change the thickness of my highlighter. This is really useful in the classroom, mainly for us as teachers. If a child created a document on their iPad and has submitted it to us for some assessment, that could be through Ashobi, Google Classroom, Schoolwork, whichever one we're using, we've got the document to assess. These smart annotation tools using the pencil or even our finger are a really nice, quick and easy way to start giving the feedback to the children and annotating the documents and supporting their knowledge and understanding. So let's put some text down here. So let's just label this image and just say we've highlighted that there. We've got a nice little way of adding some content, but we do have different types of pens. I've just used the highlighter there. We've got all those color options if we want to change the color for different things. I've got a fill tool, depending on what we're doing, if we're actually drawing diagrams into our document as well, or we've got fine liners and a crayon type effect as well. We do now have a really nice new one. That very first tool, the one that has the little A on it, is what we call the Scribble tool. And this is quite nice. I'm going to put my cursor over here. And so I've just got it now at the next point of our bullet point and go into my Scribble tool. So let's check we are over on that cursor. And Scribble means I can handwrite with my pencil and it will convert the handwriting into text. So let's have a go. So we've got, let's go onto the right tool. Walk on the pier. And it converts that handwriting into text. I don't even have to write it in the right place. It just goes wherever the cursor was. So I've got my cursor there at the right point there on the next bullet line. Using that Scribble tool, just right on the screen, and it converts it. It's a bit like the Dictation tool, but for handwriting. So it just gives the children another way, or you as a teacher, another way of adding that annotation and that content and putting that text together into our document. So we are kind of nearly there with our content. So we've got all sorts of things that we can add and really make this a nice looking live document. Now, the last thing really we need to have a look at, let's just go back to our Apple Teacher tools. We've seen some of these page layout options. We've mentioned we can use books. There is a nice set of templates there for the books and how we can use that. And that's really where we can go to town with creating all that interactive content and putting these different things like drawing and so on in there. We've got audio. We can add audio into there. And then the final thing is about collaboration. So let's add some audio to our document. So like anything else, let's press plus. Have a look down here and we've got record audio. And it brings up this nice little box at the beginning with a simple microphone button to hit record. So simply hit it and we can talk into the iPad. Here are our plans for the type of thing that we can do on our trip to the seaside. And we press the microphone again to stop the recording and we get this nice little graphical overview, that waveform of what the sound looks like. I do get an edit button so we can trim it. So I've got a little bit of silence at the beginning. So let's just trim that out so it starts straight away. And we can preview this. Here are our plans for the... Now that's sounding okay. So let's tap the insert button up at the top. And it places this speaker somewhere on the page. So I'm going to put it over on this side. And you can put more than one of those on a page if you want to help explain things. These are great for explaining diagrams so the children can actually hear what you're talking about while they're looking at the visuals on the page. So a really nice way of sending electronic documents with that audio description. So we're nearly there. The last button we need to have a look at up at the top here, next to the plus and the paintbrush, is that little picture of the person with the plus next to it. And this is great to support some of this remote learning and working with the children when they're not necessarily in the classroom. Once they're back, we can still use this as well. And this collaboration button lets me share this document live with other people so we can work on the same document simultaneously. So it gives me the options there. I can send a link to someone. So I could send this link to Richard and we could work on this document together at the same time. And I can send that either via a message or by an email. I have got an option there to just copy the link, which is a nice simple way of posting that into something like Shobi or Google Classroom or whatever you're using in your school. We do have a few share options there. So the only people who can open the link are only people who can edit the document have been invited with a link. Or we can say, actually, let's make this read only. Just read the document, but I don't want you to make any changes. View only option there. So it does give us a little bit of control over what people can do to it. But there we go. That's kind of a quick overview of Pages, what it does, how we work with it, and how we kind of create that content. And if we work through some of those, hopefully you can go and take your Pages badge.
Absolutely incredible, as always. Thank you very much. I think we've seen in that brief amount of time how you can really quickly create a beautiful looking document that's really clear, concise, getting your message across. We've got those options to add all those different elements. The library of symbols. I hesitate to call it clip art because it's much better than that. But there's something for everybody in there, isn't there? And just the way you can quickly sort of merge them, change the colours, just make them your own is wonderful. And even somebody with no artistic talent, such as myself, can, I think, create a fairly nice looking document in Pages using those shapes that are in that library. That was a big addition to Pages when it came in a couple of years ago, wasn't it? And those voice notes, I can just think how many uses are there just simply being able to put that nice simple looking button onto the page. I'm thinking MFL in particular. Have the teacher or the student speaking the phrase and typing it along, and you can even put an accent on your iPad reading the text out to you as well, can't you? Which is fabulous. And just being able to add those images and with those simple pre-formatted borders is amazing. And like you said, let's not forget, if we're using EPUB as our format, we no longer have to worry about what will print and what won't print. You can't print a voice note, can you? So that's a really handy format, and that can be distributed and shared to just about any device. It doesn't need to be an iPad at all, does it? An EPUB document is pretty universally accessible. So incredible. Thank you very much. And we have got, well, we'll talk about next week in a moment, or the next one in a moment. But Apple Teacher is an incredible program, got a real depth to it. And that Apple Teacher Learning Center is fast becoming a hub, not just for the content for these badges, but also just general examples of best practice that you'll find on iPad and Mac in classrooms, not just in the UK, but around the world as well. So do take a look. 2 QR codes or links there for you to take a look at. There's the overview page, which is the top one. And then beneath that, there's the all-important sign-up page. So just sign up with your Apple ID. That's your Apple TV account, your Apple Music account. But if you don't have an Apple ID, this is reason enough on its own to sign up for one. So just an email and a password, and you're in. And get working through those badges as we're showing you through this series of live streams. If you are a school that has ambition with iPad, shall we say, has a couple of class sets maybe, or you've just been granted some devices through the recent DFE programs or the Welsh Government programs, then we can help you. We've got a planning essentials workshop that we'd love to deliver with you, where we examine 40 or so different elements that go to make up a successful technology rollout. We look at vision and strategy, we look at teaching, we look at learning, and we look at the environment. The environment being mainly connected with your IT infrastructure. It's things that, is the Wi-Fi strong enough? How are you going to distribute apps to the iPads in your classes? That kind of thing. So we look at all of those things, and we work out a plan. And if we take a look at thank you, David. If we take a look at the picture there, that's a planning essentials workshop that we delivered at a school in Manchester a year or so ago. Well, more than a year or so ago, because we've had flipping lockdown, haven't we? But you'll see that plan there. We basically sorted through a big long list of items to take into consideration, and we had a will-do pile, which was the school's to-do list, and then we plotted that out onto a 2-metre wide poster. We can do it virtually. Did that last week with the school in Lancashire, and we sent them a big old PDF with their plan and the tasks with dates and owners for each of those bits and pieces. So if that is something we can do for you, we don't charge for Planning Essentials. It's such a great workshop, so valuable to you and to us working with you. If you want to know more about that, then please do drop us an email at education@mccdigital.com, and we'd love to schedule one of those with you. So that is it from us for now. next time, we've got my absolute favourite app, which is, David?
Keynote.
Keynote, yes. So Keynote is the presentation app that is a part of Apple's productivity suite. I love it. You will see why in a couple of days' time. So we hope you can join us again. We'll be posting all of these videos onto the MCC YouTube channel, so you can share with colleagues. And we do hope you're enjoying this series and working your way through to your badge. We'll see you in a couple of days. That's it from us for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.